Hey everybody, my name is Ashley Rush, and I'm an independent creative memories advisor located in North Carolina. Today I want to talk to you guys about our custom cutting system. This is one of Creative Memories tools that's probably been around the longest. You can use it to cut photos and papers into different shapes like circles, ovals. We even have jewel shapes like hearts. One of our most popular shapes has been our jumbo circle. So I just wanted to give you guys a couple of tips and tricks when it comes to using our custom cutting system, including how to center your paper and how best to see the angle lines on your cutting mat. Alright, so let's get started. I guess the most obvious way to get started would be to talk about centering our paper on, centering our cutting guide onto our piece of paper. Now, this is not always necessary. For example, if you're just using your paper for scraps, you can kind of cut wherever and it doesn't matter. You'll probably start in a corner and work your way across, trying to get as many circles out of the paper as you can. But if, for example, you're maybe cutting a sheet of paper that you intend on using in a layout, perhaps you want a circle cutout like I featured in one of my last videos, you're really going to want to try hard to get your pattern centered onto your cutting mat. So how is the best way to do that? Well, you can eyeball it and think, yeah, that looks pretty good. But you and I both know that is not the most reliable way. So let's talk about that. I'm going to move my paper to the side and I'm going to look at just my pattern here and my mat. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but when you look at your pattern, and maybe they show up a little better underneath, do you guys see the little dots that show up? There we go. Do you guys see the little dots that show up on the pattern, both on the inside track and outside track? Those are actually spaced 15 degrees apart in your circle. And if you guys all remember your geometry class, there's 360 degrees in your circle. So if you choose dots on the four opposite sides of your guide, then it'll be very easy to find your center. So I'm just going to sort of randomly choose a set of dots, and I'm going to color them in with a fine tip Sharpie. So I'm going to choose, there's two sets of dots right here. I'm going to reach in with my fine tip Sharpie, and I have now accentuated those dots. Now if I lay them on my mat, which is also marked with the degree marks, most importantly 90, 45 here, and then we've got our 60, 45, and 30s throughout. So if I just put the dots lining up with that 90 degree mark, and I follow my line down here, it should correspond with another set of dots, and which indeed it does. So I'm just going to take my Sharpie, and I'm going to, so now I have a straight line. Now if you were then to line those up, this is how you'll be able, on the 6-inch line on your mat, that's how you're going to be able to find the center this way. But of course, if you want to find the center of a circle, you must also find the center this way. So the best way to do that is, again, now we need to find this other 90 degree, or I think it's marked 0 on your mat. If you've got those two sets of dots lined up on the center line, and you've got your circle roughly in the center, that line should come close to another two sets of dots, and indeed it does. They're a little off-centered because, again, I'm not perfectly in the center, but I can see that there's another set here that needs my attention. And then if I put those down, lining up my dots, then that should line up with my last set of dots perfectly. I have now marked the 4 corners of my circle, and this will make lining up the center of the circle so much easier on your paper. So if I were to put my paper on the mat, centering it, when you center it, you're still able to see the ruler lines on both the top, bottom, left, and right. And so now when I put my circle, so long as I make sure that the top and bottom dots are in line with that initial 6, and these left and right dots are in line with the 6s on the left and right, then I will know that I have found the exact center of my paper. So now all we have to do is cut a circle. Now, as I said, this is one of our oldest tools in the Creative Memories lines. I'm sure you've all used it, but we could all use a little refresher. The system uses a set of 3 blades. We have our red blade, our green blade, and our blue blade. The red cuts right along the edge, so the closest circle to either the inside or outside track. The blue is beyond, so we'll cut further into the center or further of the outside of the inner and outer track. And of course, green is between. That'll cut right in the middle of your red and blue blades. The blades are actually hidden inside of their housing unit. Little squeeze and they'll pop out, and then they'll sit right back inside to form a handle. Our old blades were little circles, and they worked quite fine, but really this hexagon pattern is divine. And the blade is actually on what's sort of like a lazy Susan, and it's so much easier to use because the blade will actually follow the curve so much easier, and the hexagon design is so much easier to grip with your fingers. So you'll find these 2 little feet, and those 2 little feet will fit perfectly inside of the grooves on your pattern. Once you have the feet inside of the grooves, you're going to lightly apply pressure to your pattern so that it doesn't move, and then lightly apply pressure to your blade as well, and just carry it around the edge. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of gymnastics and move your hands. But just like that, you have a perfect circle that also happens to be perfectly in the middle of your paper. As I mentioned earlier, those little dots are actually every 15 degrees, and that may come into effect in a later video. I hope you guys tune back in. Thank you guys all for watching. I'd love for you to like and subscribe, and if you never want to miss a video, make sure you guys hit that bell as well. All right, bye.